Hello. Good morning. Good morning. All my family that is out there on YouTube. We're waiting for some more people to join in. This video won't be long, so I'm just waiting for people to fill up. If you're there, if not, I'll begin. Musty Jussie Smollett. This story, I was done with it a couple of days ago when it was found out that there were two Nigerian brothers that were arrested um, that apparently knew Jussie, and it was because originally the story was that he was attacked by two men, two white men. This is what he described wearing. Now he said he didn't say they were wearing MAGA hats, Make America Great Again hats, but nevertheless, he said it was two white men that assaulted him, called him homophobic and racial slurs, and saying he fought back and he called himself even days later the gay Tupac. Well, Jesse, you're not the gay Tupac. Tupac was shot for real. You a liar. You perpetrated a hoax onto the American people with this shit. And whether someone put you up to it or not, you went along with it. This whole story didn't make any sense to me from the beginning. I wasn't there. It's true. But, and none of us were. But I don't think a lot of people would be out there in Chicago remember and sub-zero freezing temperatures and just carrying around bleach and rope to randomly attack this this star of this TV show Empire. Now I don't think Jesse is really that big of a star. He's not. He's a co-star on that show. I don't really watch. I've talked about this before in my last video that I did on the topic. I don't really watch Empire. I think that Empire promotes coonery and buffoonery. I thought in utter honesty, there was too much even homosexual stuff that was going on the show, and I know a lot of people who stopped watching it because of it. It was just so much. The ratings, I remember listening, had actually dropped after its first episode when people tuned in because Lee Daniels, who is an openly gay man just like Jesse, he stated publicly he wanted to blow the lid off of homophobia in the black community. So, but nevertheless, all of the people that came out to support Jussie as a result of this, they're saying that he did this supposedly because his character was going to be written off, but you know what? And Fox actually stated they were not going to planning on writing his character off. They defended him. Lee Daniels defended him, Taraji P. Henson, Terrence Howard, all of his co-stars, and now that all of this shit is coming out, man, you deserve to be fired because you are making you make black people look bad. Not even just gay black people, but black people in general. Because now, when real hate crimes happen, when real brothers or sisters that are getting attacked, that get lynched, that get beat up for the color of their skin, people are not going to believe it anymore. People, this is ammunition. This is ammunition for the white supremacists to say, "I told you. See, you can't trust these Negroes. You should have just been, you know, you worried about your career. Your career's finished for lying like this. You don't get the same protection. See, we have a problem in the black communities, and specifically with this whole gender nonconformity crap that's being pushed down our throats day in and day out. This whole LGBTQ, this trans stuff that you're seeing now, that's being pushed. What's happening is that many of our people forget that they're black first. And Jussie being in Hollywood as long as he has, he has siblings that have been in Hollywood. His sister Janae is a star on that show Underground that was on WGN that they took off. She's been acting for years. I remember when she was on Full House. And they had that show on ABC. Harvey talks about it. It was called On Our Own. That was the show where it was him and his siblings, and they were living together after their parents died. So he's been around Hollywood for a long, long time, Hollyweird, and he should have known better. And now you think you're going to get the same protection as any of these white women who come out and say Harvey Weinstein did this to me, or the women even that said Bill Cosby did something to him. You better think again, because now they're going to come for you, man. You know, filing a false police report in Illinois is a class 4 felony. And what that means is that you carries up to three, I believe, 1 to 3 years in prison, and it's possible $25,000 fine, which I'm sure he can probably afford. But they're gonna make an example out you. Oh, what's up, Black Only? Yeah, I was on the Black Network yesterday with the Black Authority. That was a great program he was doing, talking about Terry Crews and Steve Harvey, and I'll get into Steve Harvey a little bit later. But anybody that shouldn't be taking any more advice from Steve Harvey, let alone relationship advice, when he's been married 3 times. He's been married 3 times, 3 different women, and apparently he's treated one of his wives real bad. I've heard different stories about Steve, most of which are not good. I don't like to spread gossip on people, but what I've heard from people that know of Steve Harvey or know him personally, it's not a good thing. You saw the way he acted with Monique, where he talked about sacrificing his integrity and how he couldn't do nothing like that because the best thing to be to help poor people is to not be poor. You dumb motherfucker. You're stupid for saying shit like that. As if everybody that's poor had a choice. Get the fuck out of here. You were homeless at one point. He's an idiot. I've lost respect for him, Steve Harvey, and I didn't want to talk about it, but he, Terry Crews, and Jussie Smollett, these are some spineless men. This is 40 years ago. Just think about this. In the 70s, you had more men standing up for what was right. Men that were actually men, straight heterosexual African American men that protected their families. They didn't sacrifice their manhood. They didn't care. They had integrity. They had self-respect. They didn't care about money. You think Muhammad Ali cared about the millions of dollars he was going to lose? He had a lot to lose in the 60s when he refused to be drafted in the United States Army. He was giving up the prime of his career. He gave up the heavyweight title. It didn't matter to him because he cared about his people. He cared about his religious beliefs. He stood up. And basically what Steve Harvey said, what Terry Crews has been doing on this toxic masculinity campaign and speeches that he's been giving, which I can't fucking understand how he could even give a speech at a college or any university. Whatever talk he was doing, TED Talk, it doesn't even matter. These guys are spineless, but this is what the media and Jussie Smollett, this is what they push out. This is what they want. They want moist, non-threatening black men. Tamara Burke, standing behind Jussie Smollett. She's even publicly stated it's not her place to question white men who are abusive. So that tells you what this whole fucking Me Too thing is. Same thing with, I'm sorry for cursing and so forth, but this is just embarrassing what I've seen now. With today's celebrities, male celebrities that we have, this is what we got to look forward to. This is who our kids look up to. Ridiculous. But yeah, Jussie Smollett could go to jail for that. And you might be gay, but you're not a white person gay. When they push LGBTQ issues, those issues specifically, they're not pushed to benefit the black gays in our community. No, 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 no. Don't get it wrong. That's being pushed to enhance, whites. Because if you think of it, this is why affirmative action, has gone downhill. It hasn't benefited blacks is because they started adding other minorities to the affirmative actions bills that were passed in the 60s. When Lyndon Johnson created affirmative action, its purpose was to right past discriminations against blacks. Because obviously black people, we didn't have the right to vote. for over 150 years. Uh, you know, after the Civil War, even after the Civil War, Reconstruction. I said 150. I'm sorry, my years are off. But you don't understand what I'm saying as far as you know after the Civil War, over 100 years, when you had even the 15th Amendment, which gave blacks the rights to vote, the 14th Amendment giving blacks citizenship, and the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery, supposedly, although there's an exception in that. It didn't really abolish slavery unless you gave an exception to it with regards to the prison industrial complex, but that's a different story, which, those laws were put in place for black people. And then Lyndon Johnson in the 60s, he creates affirmative action, but then subsequently, 1969, you have the gay riots that came out. I can't think of the town, but it was in New York. Stonewall, was it? I'm not sure. But they made a movie on it that didn't do good at the box office. If anybody knows it, you can let me know what the name of the movie was. But you had you had the feminist movements that came out in the early '70s, and they wanted their rights too. Then other immigrants groups like the Chinese, Arabs, Koreans, Jewish groups, they all were pushing for their rights, and so subsequently they got added to it. And recently there was a bill that Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and Tim Scott in the Senate passed, where an anti-lynching bill, and well, it didn't pass yet, but they created a draft of it to mirror one that Bobby Rush had created in the House of Representatives. And now in that language, and some conservatives pointed this out, you can go check it out on. I'll see if I can upload and post the link in some of the comments later on when I edit the video. When the video finishes, I'll put the links up. But Vox.com, they were reporting that a conservative right-wing group, which is called Liberty Counsel, was opposed to the bill because they were adding gender identity and sexual orientation to the lynching legislation. Now, there have already been, yeah, that's true. And that's actually that's true, Black. And actually, we're trying to, I saw T West, if you know Afro Synergy News, he actually has the African American political agenda where where it states in their points they want it to be a hate crime, or there be legislation that protects blacks when whites call 911 on black people, and those basically are grounds now for black men and even women to get shot or killed. But we don't hear about that. We don't hear that being passed, talked about from those in our legislation, like the Cory Bookers and Kamala Harris's, because they're there to push an agenda. And tying us in with Jussie Smollett was campaigning openly for Kamala Harris a few months ago. There are pictures online. Go look at it. Tariq Nasheed put up an entire 7-point thread on Twitter about the ties between Kamala Harris and Jussie Smollett, how he was campaigning for, and how they basically, these politicians we put in, have no black agenda. Keep in mind also, there's already bills that make lynching a crime. Now, there's hate crime legislation already. You saw it what happened in Texas when James Byrd was dragged by those white boys. That was a hate crime. They were charged with capital murder and they were executed. One of the gentlemen, I think, was executed, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago. I shouldn't call him a gentleman. He's a devil, but it is what it is. And even James Byrd's family, because they don't believe in the death penalty. This was a few years ago. They did not want him to be executed. Now, that's how they feel. They don't believe, that's their religious beliefs. They have a right to it. Uh, you know, I believe that there should be restrictions on the death penalty. I think definitely if you're talking about a capital murder, there has to be exclusive DNA evidence that's conclusive, that links that person. There has to be an eyewitness, I believe, that can identify him. I think all of that needs to be done because there are men who have been wrongfully executed. Let's just be real. As a black man in America, I can't say I totally support, the death penalty when I've seen the Scottsboro boys and the George Steinies, Stymie Jr. and so forth, and a lot of men that were wrongly executed for stuff. That's correct. We should be in a protected class. We are in a protected class already, but it's been co opted by these other groups. And speaking of which, all of the females, like the Ava Dunavy, the Tamara Burks, uh, the Vibe magazine. I don't know who the lady is that put that article out, but Jamel Melu, I believe, is one woman's name that was shitting on black men, straight black men. You owe us all an apology because you defended someone without even looking at all the evidence and asking questions. And this is why you have to have cross examination. See, when people got mad when we asked questions about the Bill Cosby case and talking about believe women, believe the accusers, no, you can't just believe what everyone says. You got to believe what the evidence is. That's what our justice system states. And our justice system did not do this for Dr. Cosby. It did not do it. Did it for OJ and Michael, but now the media has turned where we don't care what the justice system did right in this point. We're still going to call them guilty. R. Kelly, I'm not defending R. Kelly at all. Please, I don't want anybody to think that I'm condoning anything that he allegedly did. But he was acquitted on those charges. Now, they supposedly have some new information, new evidence. Only reason I'm questioning that is because the attorney who's supposedly representing these girls, Michael Avianti, apparently Gloria Allred tipped him off about it. So Gloria Allred is involved in this as well. Whenever I see her, I've told y'all this before, you know, I stay away from it. Stay away from her. Because I don't think there's a black man, I don't think there's a white man she's gone after. Maybe Trump might be the only one, but her daughter represented Harvey Weinstein at one point. So I'm seeing this constant attack. We're all seeing these constant attacks of black men. It's not an accident. It's not an accident why they put Empire on there and on Fox during prime time, but they won't bring shows like A Different World back on. They wouldn't keep a show like Underground on. Black only is no longer B1. Oh, so that's why I don't recognize you. Yeah, I saw you comment on there yesterday, bro. I saw it. We got 3 people in the watching. Give us your names. Put something in the chat. I said it wasn't gonna be long, guys. I'm about to cut it in a minute, but this is the Jussie Smollett, man. You better. And you know what really tipped me off about it? I always had my suspicions, but who goes for Subway at 2 o'clock in the morning? Now I've been in Las Vegas, across the street. Las Vegas obviously is a town that never sleeps. It's always busy. They got a McDonald's and a Subway right across where I was staying at, and they were open 24 hours. So, yeah, people do that. People can do that, but to do that at 2 o'clock in the morning, in freezing sub-zero weather is the thing that got me. Carrying rope around is the thing that got me. And apparently, not knowing the color of your attackers, they're now saying they were black men, Nigerian brothers, twin brothers, that have been on your TV show. I don't think they're twins. Excuse me, they're brothers. Yeah, this don't look good, Jussie. And you got some explaining to do. You hurt your family. He hurt his family's name too, because now that the Smollett name is well known, something like this where he allegedly lied, or it looks more and more like he did, filing a false police report. They all backed him. Now they're gonna look bad. His sister is doing the Birds of Prey TV show. How does that affect her? How's it gonna affect his other sister, Jazz, who was on Al Sharpton show with him, and I believe it was a senator, if I'm not mistaken, where we're talking about HBCUs. But you see, what pisses me off about this, they're going to use this whole thing against black men, straight black men, especially if there's another attack. If some one of us, you know, these things happen, and now when you make false police reports, you take away from real victims. That's the same thing I've said with with Cosby, with R. Kelly. There could be some real victims out there, but if you're saying bullshit, if you got bullshit being said, well, it was going on for 4 years. Well, he did this to me, but I still kept seeing him. Or I see you saying he kidnapped your daughters and so forth, but your daughters are sitting there front row in the concert and they're not even children. They're 18, 19 years old. Legally, they're adults. I question that. Have some evidence. Wait, don't just rush. You see, this is also an example of what happens when social media gets involved, where we believe everything we see and we don't research. It's important to wait for every and all the facts to come out. And hopefully, the good thing about this, maybe this show gets canceled. Maybe Empire goes off. I don't like the show anyway. I'm sorry for the crew. Yeah, they have their jobs and families, so I wouldn't wish that on them. But hey, I'm sorry, Lee Daniels is on there. I don't respect the man. But that's what Hollywood wants. They want weak, spineless men, spineless black men in particular, moist. And I'm not saying this because attacking Jussie because he's gay. I'm not saying that because they're gay, but anybody's gay. But I'm saying this because you told a story, man. I'm saying this because I mean, how many times have straight people gotten attacked for saying they don't support stuff like this? That they don't support gay. That's just their opinion. And noticed also what got me was how the media, when this attack happened, everything was being pushed for LGBTQ issues. They talked about instead of the racial aspect of it, it was always homophobic. Homophobic. After they yelled, I saw the ABC News Worldwide News story today on the video. They said after the attackers made homophobic slurs, they attacked Jussie. They didn't just make homophobic slurs. They said nigger to him too. They made racial epithets. Why was it just homophobic? Morgan Freeman starred in a movie back in the early 80s called Lean on Me. You remember that movie? I saw a great clip from it between him and Robert Guillaume. Robert Guillaume was the star of the show Benson that was on in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, around that time. That was even young for me. And I'm just reading the comics, excuse me. And in that movie, Morgan Freeman made a great speech when he was arguing with Robert Guillaume. He said, blacks are being pushed into a permanent underclass, meaning we're not being treated even as second class citizens anymore. You're being treated now as this permanent underclass because everyone else is getting something except you. Everybody's on top of you. So you'll never go further. We'll never go further when other people's issues are being pushed at the forefront. It's not hate, it's just facts. When you're competing with someone, when you're in a race, you want to win. There is no medal for eighth place. Maybe it's the second and third have medals. Bronze and silver, silver and bronze in that order, respectively. Gold gets first place. You know, this is gonna hurt him, Jussie. This is gonna. it's gonna affect more, and I think even more gay. It may not impact the LGBT community as much because they're white. But a lot of people now, I think, are waking up because they're tired of seeing all this stuff on TV. They're tired of having things pushed down their throats. They're tired of seeing these issues talked about over and over again. That's just real. I know of people that is. I mean, frankly, there's some things a lot of things I'm tired of seeing. That's me. It's not hate. It's just true. Do I have to keep knowing your? Why do I have to keep knowing about your sexuality? What you do in your bedroom? That's your business. I don't need to know that. But you really hurt real victims out here of hate crimes, man. Even if the people that are LGBTQ that get attacked. Now I saw CNN talk about it. They did an interview. I think a clip today that was been circulating around. Yodit Tidwell, who's the attorney, an anchor for Court TV. She made an appearance talking about it, and the news anchor, as a black man, tried to be sure. I don't know if it was Bakari Sellers or who it was, but he was trying to make assurances that, please, if this turns out to be a hoax, don't make it. Please don't think that it's not happening to that violence doesn't happen against LGBTQ people of color. Well, hey man, people of color, black people have been attacked for years, so stop caping for all these other issues. I know the CNN, they always have to throw their agenda. CNN has an agenda, just like Fox News does. And I'm not trying to take away that, there isn't violence that happens to them. But, something, I also know that sometimes some of those things where there are trans people who are attacked, people who may be people of color as well. Part of the reason why they get attacked, and I'm just being real, they don't tell their true origins to their respective partners, because that happens in some situations where you be with someone for several years, they're a woman, but then they tell you, I say years, well, let's just say months to be safe. It could be years, it could be months, but after months of being in a relationship, you found out that that woman is really born a man. And some people, and men in general, when you lie to them like that, when you have something of that magnitude, they lose it. And yeah, they would attack you. I'm be careful with my words because I don't want to end up like what happened with Lil Duval. Squeaky J says his stun is not that damaging. Most people I know never believed it. Well, hey, I may not believed it either. I didn't believe it either, but I can tell you he definitely can face jail time for that. It does impact people of color because now when we have these hate crimes come out, more and more, I'm pretty sure the conservatives are gonna say, "Oh, who's to believe that?" After this incident. It's just like even with this stuff with the Me Too, we keep seeing, you know, politician and actor and entertainer over and over something comes up, like what happened with the governor in Virginia, lieutenant governor in Virginia, how quickly the paradigm shifted from talking about the governor's transgressions, racist transgressions. Then, when his lieutenant governor was likely to take over, he gets allegations of sexual assault hit on him. Never ever coming up even at the time he ran for lieutenant governor last year and won. He's been in office for a whole year. They never said anything about it then, and only recently said something about it now, which is why I call BS on it. And no, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying. I take what people say for a grain of salt now, man. I believe evidence. Be careful comparing real life versus Hollywood. Okay. And when they went in Hollywood, this is real life. If you're actually, this is real life. What these men are being accused of, this is real life. This ain't no games. Their lives, reputations, their careers are all on the line. I'm just saying. My point is that when you make accusations, there has to be evidence of it, and Jesse equals Hollywood or Hollyweird. Yeah, I mean Jesse. I don't think I don't honestly think Jesse can recover from something like that. Because who would watch? He lied, and especially now, I don't think the LGBTQ community, which is mostly white, will forgive him for it. They're not going to forgive that. All of the politicians that came out supporting him, I think that was to push this bill that they had. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. I'm gonna wrap it up this Sunday. It's time to play some Nazi zombies. Y'all have a good Sunday, okay? But that's just my 2 cents. Just moral to the story is wait till all the facts come out. Uh, y- I always had my suspicions about this, so I was careful. Obviously you didn't want to, and I wanted him to be, I wanted it to be truthful, that it happened because, you know, something like that we take serious. I certainly wouldn't wish, maybe if I may be a straight black man, but I certainly wouldn't wish harm on any person, whether they're gay or straight, regardless of their color. I wouldn't want to see anybody the victim of a crime like that. And, it's sad that he did this. It looks more and more like that because he's made embarrassed his family too. Uh, you know, what are they to say? What is and then also his television family. They defended him. Now they look foolish. How they're gonna look at him again after that. You know. Anyway, you guys take care.